Good morning. I hope you are having a lovely Thursday morning. We are so glad that the tech issues we had last time worked themselves out because we're really glad to be here with you today. I'm Andrea Foster, and I am working here with my good pal, DeAnna, who is here to answer all of your questions. How are you doing today, DeAnna?
I'm doing really good. Yeah. Happy to be here. Excited to see what questions come up today, and just what do we want to learn together? That's really what this is about, a forum where you get to explore a question and see what there is that can be done, and maybe even ways that it could be looked at that are different than we see in the world, and in health. So yeah, I'm happy to be representing and talking about representing. I have some really amazing things coming up really soon, and it's nice that I have some really beautiful things that I'm doing in the world, because here we are, my first saying hello to the world after a very big, important announcement that happened on Sunday. And so I could, I'm going to cry because I'm a cough of wet. But, it's been so amazing to be able to still have my identity. We are, needing to and have made the decision, and the decision's been made for us, that the DeAnna Center, as we've known it, is not going to exist any longer. And so you can find that, on the social media platforms. I'd love it if this is a shock right now, please read the letter, because there's a lot of positive things happening, even if I am in the middle of and shared with, I think, thousands of people. I'm having a loss, and something is changing. That's like, wow. And I'm like, really? The pandemic isn't enough? And it's like, oh, we're still in the pandemic. This is the pandemic. And the pandemic is so very personal. It's shared. I keep saying that, the pandemic is the one time I can remember in my whole life. And I was talking to my dad about this, since he's older than me, giving an extra, 30 years on it. And just having these discussions about when have we ever had such an opportunity at a hand where we're all sharing or experiencing the same exact thing together. And if you really think about that, that's got scary, and it's going to put everyone on their edge, and you're going to see who everybody is, because we go into our patterns when we're in stress and upheaval. And so we're really experiencing that. But oh my gosh, what an opportunity to be able to say, whoa, we're all experiencing the same thing. I'm not alone in my loss or loneliness or not knowing anymore. And we all get to reinvent and reconsider and rethink. Like, what do we really want? What's going to be the simplest thing? And life isn't very simple, and the environment is not in a simple state either. And so we really have to look ahead and plan ahead and really think about what's the most realistic way to go. And that's hard, because then when I went down to it, it's not somebody, taking my, baby business away. It's like the reality and the truth of, what's real and what's going to really work. And so, yeah, what a sacrifice. And, there's a couple great things in the sacrifice. Let me tell you the two-pronged things that are in the sacrifice. One is it's bringing newness, like I said in the letter, receding, backing out to recede. And Scott and I feel really, really good about this concept and this idea that Bliss Spa, has taken the bathhouse. We're getting ready to train them. You know what I mean? We're training them. Scott's their backup. If anything goes wrong, who knows how to take care of the bathhouse? Who knows how to tend to the sanctuary? Scott knows how to tend to the sanctuary. He built the sanctuary.
Mhm.
He's been the holder of that sanctuary, and how precious, And so he gets that. We also get to still go to our own steam room. I did the steam room. I'm sorry, but that is my womb cocoon. It's the hardest thing to give up, the hardest. But I knew in my heart, and so did Scott, that if we gave it up, it's going to become something really brilliant. And it's already happening. I mean, we didn't even know that definitively when we sent the letter, but we knew we had to, because we're transitioning out of there very quickly. And I know that's going to be hard for a lot of people. But Milena Bliss Organic Day Spa has the bathhouse, and Scott's going to knock a thing out of the wall and put in a door for them. And you just go into Bliss and boom, go into the bathhouse. It'll be set up different. It won't be just open whenever you want, because there's all kinds of things to think of now. How many people are in there? How do you keep it sterile and clean? And so it'll be a lot of groups and with treatments, but she'll come up with great ideas.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And she's brilliant, and she wants to, it's going to look just like the sanctuary. We're leaving all our stuff in there. We're leaving the copper tub. What I mean?
Great.
So, we're doing the best we can to not take something away that is precious, and to just make sure that it's getting repurposed and still gets to be there to be loved. And then we'll see who does treatment. Who takes that loft up there? What if it's not even a classroom? What if it's something amazing? Who knows? Who knows? But I do know a few things. I know you still have a sanctuary if you're local. And then I also know that I have some amazing classes coming up, and I'm going back into a 28-year journey. When I got back from India, I was doing lots of births, one birth after another. Albuquerque was like birth, and then I moved to California, and it was like, whoa, even more. And I had a long stretch there, 15 years of just going to births, pregnancy, all of these things. As things grew, as the DeAnna Center took more of my time, I really couldn't do births, and I couldn't do my hospice care either. So there were sacrifices, there, and they're calling me. I'm like, I do great hospice. I do great at births or just being involved. I don't even have to be there, but, and so I can't believe that Terry and my mentor, Terry Simmons, who is really dear, dear, dear friend, we are doing Birth Alchemy, and it starts in June. So it's like right around the corner. We're super excited. It's coming together beautifully. Can I just say, well, actually you should join us, because we have Birthers Can Do It is kind of our live right next Thursday.
Yeah. And it's free.
And it's free. And we are going to rock out, like, what is it for birthers to do it? Like, what is free birth, but still be supported, and what are all these factors? And we're both great herbalists. So we're going to bring a lot of medicine, and then I'm holding assessment tools and diagnostics, so like bringing the tongue and skin conditions happen a lot in pregnancy and with hormones. And so, I'm bringing in a whole piece of like the tissues, the lymph, how do we not get depressed after a labor? You know what I mean? How do we get back to ourselves? How do we keep our sanctity, when so much has expanded and so much has been released, and it's a whole new world. You're literally all of a sudden, you're like, baby, oh my God. But I just see they're like, my whole life has changed.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There's a lot to look at, a lot to face, and it's just amazing. So I'm like, whoa, I decided to do the birth class. So glad Terry's joining me. And then all of a sudden I've got tons of preggies and babies, and I keep seeing kids, like, as clients. I've seen a lot of, kids. And so that's just really, really fun. And I'm excited to get into that. But yeah, we're going to go over even like, how do you read the pulse if you're a midwife, if you're a birth worker, how do you read the pulse? How do you use that in pregnancy all the way through the beautiful things that can happen in labor, like reading dilation of the, cervix? That's brilliant and is very good. And as soon as I told Terry, I knew that. And then she started practicing it. So I know the theories, and I'm kind of the pulse, the holder of the pulse teachings and using in my practice. But Terry has used pulse now for all of these years through pregnancy, fertility, emotional processes, because she does so much work with the emotions and like clearing out energetics that aren't serving for the family you're, creating. So she's really into like, let's clear that stuff out. It clears the way, and then the babe gets to know, they get to know, like, what are they coming into? It's nice to be able to have agreements, splayed out, like, mama's got some anger and counterpart, your counterpart fluids, they're very diverse, and families could look like anything. And I want you to know what your family looks like. And I want you to be proud of what your family looks like. And that is powerful. Just that diversity and like, fluids coming together, and we know they, come from two different reproductive systems. But other than that, families, the dynamics and the beauty of like, who are you and who are you with and how do you see yourself? And then you're having this child, grow up seeing that there's a lot of ways to be. And that's what I've been doing with a lot of kids, it's just like, how do you see things, like, there's always another way to look at it, and then I just like, and then they're all, thinking big and taking baby steps. You have to know how to
That's amazing.
Be strategic, but take the baby steps to get there. And that's really what birth alchemy is about. It's the alchemy of taking the steps, seeing and witnessing what's going on, and then being willing to go, there's this amazing plant, or there's this specific, energetic remedy, or, but you're just like following along, like you're letting a child become who they are. You're just following along that pregnancy, trying to let it all just be, and only intervene as a supporter when absolutely necessary. So a lot of holding.
That's amazing.
And then when to take action. Otherwise, mama and family unit and whatever that looks like might even be just a mama, you know what I mean? And it might not even be, the pronouns might not even be mama. So, it's like whoever and whatever that unit looks like, how do you hold a container and then just know when, they can do this themselves, or they've got this. So I'm just going to let them go through this. They're not in danger. They're just having a hard contraction.
Yeah.
So just, you can see I'm excited.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm thinking about my own births. Both of them were very Western. And one of the most pivotal things that is, I guess, still a wound for me is how breastfeeding was so difficult with my firstborn. And there was a point at which I felt natural at it. And then a lactation consultant came into the hospital room, and through her need to assist me, her desire to assist me, I completely lost my faith in my ability to breastfeed. And after a time, he wasn't taking enough breast milk, and I had to switch to formula, which is a choice. It's a thing that happens. But for me personally, it felt like complete failure. And I was so distanced from the process. I thought, these people know what they're talking about. This is my first birth. I don't know what I'm doing. But it was a complete disconnect from my intuition. And it felt really heartbreaking. I can't imagine what it would have been like to be more engaged in understanding my own intuition and my own connection.
You can do this,
Yeah.
And you figure it out, and it's amazing how we do figure things out when we're left to our own.
Yeah. I mean, just like I figured a bunch of things out with my second that was never taught to me in any of the breastfeeding classes. So you better believe I was on it, and I exclusively breastfed my second, which I'm proud of. But it just really brought to mind how distanced the process is from the human aspect and the individualized aspect in Western tradition.
And the
It
energetics.
can just be so like formulaic. Yeah.
And the energetics behind it, like the real sense of the experience, it's kind of like, oh no, you just do it like this, you know what I mean? And then, they
Right.
take over and you're like, wait a minute, that's my breast,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it happens, and that's why when I meet, people who are in those realms who can just really hold that line, that's when you're always like, oh man, that was such a cool nurse, oh, that was such a good lactation specialist, and I always think of those times when I'm like, oh, I loved that, midwife at Kaiser, because I feel that way in the system and being part of the system with people. I've met amazing people, but I'm always like, oh, please, please, more of you, more of you, more of you.
Yeah. It's tricky.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
and they're inundated. Let's be honest. They're inundated with people. It's extreme. Humans, so many humans on the planet. They're in an extreme state too. And I try to remember that, but man, does it have lasting effects.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's when those hormones, we'll be talking a lot about hormones and like, how did that affect your hormonal, production? How did that change your production of milk? When that's all the hormonal process, and so, yeah, hopefully, and I feel these are all things that are going to get addressed through Terry and I. She will be the expert, home birth midwife, extraordinaire. Like I don't have anything on Terry as far as like, what would you do if you heard them panting like this? Because she's like all about sound and body manipulation and undulation and like sensing that, labor, sensing.
That's magical.
And it's just really interesting. I remember one birth we were at, and I went in, we were in the kitchen, you're whispering in the kitchen, and I remember there being a certain sound that the mama made in the bedroom, and she just like dropped everything and like, boom, jetted in. And I remember that distinctive, and I've never forgotten it, that distinctive feeling of like her instinct, the instinct to just be like, that's not the right sound.
Wow.
But that's a very timely sound. You know what I mean? Like when the baby's crowning, like she's taught me there's like specific sounds, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, so she's going to bring a lot to the table. That's not just how do you be a midwife? We're also wanting to support all the free birthers out there in autonomy birth. And that's really where Terry stands. But we're really wanting to support those people. If you are venturing off, to be either a doula in support of someone who wants their freedom to birth, or if you are taking your freedom to birth somewhat on your own, because this is something that, is natural to us. Why do animals and people get way out and find a tree and squat? I mean, there's just an innate, and so we'll be talking a lot about that. And this class would be really good for those people, because there's a lot to know, even if you're going to do this on your own. Like, I guess mine and Terry's point is just be educated, have some good medicine around for some kind of emergency. Don't play games with the fact that you don't think you won't have an emergency. Like, just be prepared, so you can sustain it on your own. And that's just an important thing too. So I'm excited. It's going to be
for sure. And the stories that you hear, I know you're going to be talking with somebody who had a very independent approach to birth. So we'll be excited to see that conversation in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I'll be talking.
We've got some folks here. Hi. Martha's here from south of Dallas. Hi, Martha. And Anna Stufflebeam is saying hi from North Carolina. She wanted to let you know that she's really excited for the upcoming birth work, and that she notes that you played a critical role of holding space in her own pregnancy. And she's really excited that you're going to be offering that support to others.
Oh,
So, yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. Thank you. Thank you. I love to be in service. You know, that's never going to change no matter what's going on with DeAnna Center as a physical place. Like, I'll keep teaching. And by the way, next year I'm going back to in-person teaching. So like, no one should think this is all I'm going to do. This is going to be solid what I offer online, because there's people beyond here. I'm going a little bit on the road, but I'm going to stay a lot in Sebastopol and Occidental, because this is my home and these are my people. And I've got like students and interns. I got things, you know, I want people to be able to get to me like they know they could before, you know? So it's an email away.
Yeah. It's so amazing. Yeah.
And it's just really powerful to see, you know, how much I am needed and how precious it is to be needed. And it's an honor. Like, you know, Anna, it's an honor to be part of your pregnancy and have that play out with your child growing up. You know, I hope it's a part of your child's just innate knowing. You know, I want children to grow up with elements.
Yeah.
Kids can do hot, cold, wet, dry. They love it.
Yeah.
Take your jacket on, you know, take your jacket off, hot, cold, you know what I mean? You know, and you know, when they're angry, you know, I'm like, ooh, okay, so you got to know when you see a volcano, you need to know where you're going. That's what I tell kids. And then I said this to a child last week. I was like, when you're pressure and you can feel that and everything's closing up, you got to go, wait a minute, that's a volcano. I need to take a deep breath before I say anything, or maybe walk away and go to your room. You know, it's okay. Be like, I need a moment, you know? And then when do you go cold? Glacier. You know, when do you go into the icy and the closed up heart and you're like, that's it. You know, you're like, no hug, back off, you know, and then it's like, oh, you need a little defrosting. We got to thaw you out. And so, you know, how do you melt your heart down? I say to them, like, how are you going to let your heart stay open? You know, and really you're probably going icy because you're wanting to have boundaries. You might have just needed to say, no, I can't do that right now. I don't want to do that right now. Can we do that later? You know, and that changes everything.
Yes.
So
yes.
That's, man, I hope some babies. Oh, I have another baby story, but there might be a question.
Well, we're still waiting on questions. Please be sure to post your questions. DeAnna is here for you, so don't be shy. But in the meantime, let's hear a birth story.
Well, this is a good one that's literally recent. And it's so interesting that I got this email from someone that I knew in Albuquerque. Done a lot of going back to Albuquerque and reconnecting this year. But someone got a hold of me, fabulous woman, love her, always think of her. Scott and I love her, but we don't stay big contact. She's been raising kids anyway and, you know, busy. Anyway, I write this letter and I'm kind of like, oh my gosh, my whole life, everything, you know, everything is different. I'm going to be okay. And I get this email and it says her daughter is graduating from college. I was at this birth, you know, and she's like, I just want you to know, you know, that like, she's now graduating college. She's amazing, you know, sure, she's had her own challenges. Who doesn't? But she was just kind of like, I just felt like it was a good time to kind of say hello and reconnect. And like, you've always been a part of our life. And I just was like, oh my gosh, that she's got to be probably 22 to 24 years old, if I'm, you know what I mean? And really just, it was really this remarkable full circle. Like, does it really matter? As long as I'm still doing my work, showing up, teaching people, you know, sharing the information, because it doesn't belong to me anyway. You know, I feel like my whole job, my whole life work is just inspiring people on things that make sense. Like, this stuff makes sense. Why don't we use it? I like to count on things that make sense. You know? And then how do I feel? How do I bring my intuition into the intellect? You know, and this stuff can be proven. You do cool down when you take your jacket off.
Mm-hmm.
You do warm up when you put your jacket on. You do feel more satisfied when you drink the glass of water, you know, when you're thirsty. And so that's just a tiny little, you know, like it was very meaningful that I got that email on that day. And it brought me all the way back full circle in a child who's in the world graduating college. I'm going to cry right now. Graduating college, who this is part of their life. This is like a way of being. And what can that do for the world? I don't want these younger generations to be pressurized by the crap ahead. I want them to be invested in the things that they can count on so that they really have the health and the energy to do it different than our generations did. And to be able to like not hold the pressure and be like, I'm one person, I can only do my one person. And then who are the people around me that I can connect to my wanting to serve? And that could, wow, I really see this younger generation so pressurized. You know, I have a whole group of 5 lovelies, you know, very diverse group. So they're just my lovelies who are down at Mills College in Oakland. And here we are packing and moving, and they're getting ready for finals. And they just said, man, dude, we got to get in that bathhouse one more time. Like, it's really hard for them, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm connected to them because it's Terry's really, really dear, you know, young one in her life. And so I started saying, hey, why don't you come at the bathhouse and chill out a little? And so, yeah, they're coming here for the weekend. Got 5 lovely who are getting the finals, and they just need like some nature and some land to like study and think big and just enjoy the bathhouse as it is one more time. And again, that's like, they're in college. I'm so thrilled to be like involved in that age group, you know,
it's
all
important.
These youngins. I'm like, man, like gonna rock this world. And I hope they can feel less pressure you know, to do it.
Well, we've got some questions coming through. Okay. I'm excited to say we've got Adela's here saying hi, and Susan has a question. She needs guidance about an unexplained itching rash on her upper body from her waist to her scalp. You had mentioned her Vata pushing Pitta in the past, so this is a past client of yours, but she's wondering what to do.
Okay, so the rash is from the scalp to the hips? Is that what I heard?
Waist to scalp, yep.
Waist to scalp, okay. So there's a few ways, and even like if you're with us here, you might want to give me a little more information. Like, is it the whole, like, is it on one side? Is it the whole back? Let's remember the right side of our body. These are the ways I would help detective this, okay? We know it's a rash. That's inflammation. The drier the rash looks, the more we know it is dry and hot. The more
she says sorry, she says the itching's mostly on the back of her body.
Okay, but is it to the left or is it to the right? Is it the whole back? These are the like details. To answer the question on a skin condition, we need where and what side of the body, because then we can track the meridian it's on. And I can also look at it as more of a masculine feminine relation, which is a big part of what they do in our Ayurveda on things that are expressing from one side of your body or another, or if you keep getting injuries on one side of your body or another. So itch is dry, red is inflamed. So here's the Vata, dry, pushing, flaring, Pitta, hot. making forest fire. So we have that. That means pitta spreading. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cool down the pitta, and you'd want to keep doing that so you stop the spreading. So often we just want a skin thing to go away, but we really want to kind of reduce it spreading and then work on go away. So I'm going to mention aloe vera, half a cup morning and night, inner fillet. I'm also going to be all about like doing chamomile essential oil, 2 drops every morning, every night. That could go right on the condition, but sometimes essential oils don't work. And then you can just like, maybe put it on your liver, because the liver's the seat of skin conditions. But I'd be on chamomile, 2 drops, AM, PM. Yeah.
She's noting it's the itching is the center of her body along the spine.
Okay. So your bladder meridian runs the closest to your spine on both sides. So we always think of like what is in the urinary tract or what's in the bladder connected to kidneys too. That's what we'd look at in that placement: kidney, bladder, urinary tract. So that'd be one thing to think of. If you're getting dehydrated, that's the most common reason why your waterworks aren't working well. So it's a waterworks issue on the bladder meridian. But the other thing we want to detect here is that it's on next to the spine, and the spine is your nervous system, your central nervous system. So, you'd want to think about just like, stress levels, or like what could be exasperating this that is, in the nerves themselves. And nerves, when they dry out, give you a lot of itch. So anytime I have an itch or a twitch, I know the nervous system is, what we even think of as like short circuiting, or my nerves are shot, right? So we're depleted and we don't have enough juice in the nerves. So I'll tell you what I think of with this. I think of the things I said: aloe, the chamomile, and I think a cleansing tea. Cooling, I would do half cooling, half cleansing tea. So you get a little more anti-inflammatory cooling with a little bit of the like, hey, let's keep things moving just in general ways and clean up the blood, liver, skin, blood. So I'd be thinking about that. But I also think it would probably be good to do even like a little bit of a hydration flush, and what that is you start doing a half a gallon of water a day with a teaspoon of gray salt and a tablespoon of chia seeds. And you let them actually soak overnight so they're all puffy, and you start drinking them while you're drinking your water. You start drinking those chia seeds as you're drinking your water. So we need to nourish. I think there needs to be a wet flush to keep that waterworks working. And then you need to cool down kind of your liver and blood. And that's how we would look at it. I want to show you something. I got the cutest little kitten right here.
Is it the kitten?
How can I not show the world this most adorable little
This little kitten
baby? Look at the baby.
Oh, what a sweet potato.
Okay, I just had to, sorry.
Kitten break.
So that's what I think of. Salt scrubs rock that whole idea too. So you have to think about like, okay, I've got an itch. Salt scrub would way deal with the itch, but it's also going to slough a little bit of that wet off of there, the dry scaly off of there, and pull the fire to the surface so you can get it to cleanse out. So I'd be all about salt scrubs too. You're gonna have to get inventive with getting to your back. I don't know how much you can stretch there or not. Some people are like, but I can't get to my back. And I'm like, well, I just put it on my dry brush, with the stick, find another way to do it.
Can you repeat what you said about cleansing tea for Susan? She's curious about that.
Cleansing tea is what we do right now in spring. I would maybe put it in with the cooling tea. So I was saying do a 50-50, like buy a bag of each and then do a teaspoon of each one. It makes a really beautiful sun tea. So you can actually make a sun tea with that. And that's really brilliant too. Or you can just put it right in your teacup and pour hot water over it. And then you're actually drinking the fiber of the plant while you're having your tea. So in Ayurveda, we always do kind of what's called slurries. You do a little slurry, you know. I remember when Dr. Gupta was visiting here one time, and I made him this beautiful tea from the garden, and I poured him his tea, and he was like, "You just left all the medicine in the teapot." And I go, "What?" And he's all the medicine is in the teapot. And I was all, whoa. You know, he's like, think about all the chemicals that are in that fiber. And why would you not eat the fiber? That's the healthiest fiber you could possibly eat. It helps you poop, you know? And I just remember him having this whole, like, if you want to poop, you eat the fiber, you know? So we forget that herbs and plants are kind of like eating leafy greens. So you can either make a tea slurry, you know, or you can make a sun tea, and even that could be a slurry. But yeah, that's more what I'm thinking. And that could be twice a day, teaspoon of each one, twice a day. And that should, you know, really shift things. Yeah.
That's great. All right. Our next question is from Anna Stufflebeam, and she's wondering about the Ayurvedic perspective on vaccines and suggestions for immune support before and after vaccination for those that get one.
Okay. Well, I'll answer the first question. I'm going to have you tell me the next question again, you know. Okay. But the first question, in Ayurveda, everything's plant-based and food-based. So there really is not, they used surgical tools back in the day. So they did use, you know, tools and do surgery, but even all, as I've known it, even all of their anesthesias, which is the same in Chinese medicine back in the day, they had plants that did that. And they'd even hook you up intravenously and you know, give you a plant anesthesia or painkiller. So there's no vaccinations in Ayurveda because it wasn't designed in that timeline. So I think that's just a foundational thing. Then it's going to be just as broad as any other person's vaccine opinions from there. So like if you look at, you know, Global Ayurveda did a conference a couple months ago, and it was really great. Ayurvedic doctors from all over the place. It was really cool. But everyone had different opinions. And I was like, oh, this is just the same as any. Some people believe in them or like them, and some people don't, you know? And so then, you know, I can't say, I can't speak to it in today because it's not part of Ayurveda in general. So I guess that's probably, you know, the answer there. You know, there's not a lot of chemical intervention seen, you know, in Ayurveda, you know, even with their minerals, like even vitamins and minerals, you know, you didn't see that standard where it's like, I'm just giving you magnesium, you know, you would be given conch shell that was burned and turned into ash, which is like the homeopathics of Ayurveda, baswas are what they're called. You know, you would maybe get pearl, if you needed a lot of calcium, or you would get conch shell if you needed the zinc, magnesium, potassium combination. So there's like all these things, but again, everything that you eat, nothing has just magnesium or has just this or just that. And so they just look at it as a very broad, but, you know, messing with your immune system in Ayurveda would pretty much not be a smart thing to do. I think if you were asking someone way back in the day, you know, like, hey, should we, you know, manipulate this to nip this virus in the bud? I don't know. I bet there's probably opinions there too, but I have a feeling it would have been a little bit more like everything has its timeline. Everything has to play out as it plays out. Like that's a standard in Ayurveda, you know, Kala. Kala, Kala, blueprint, destiny, timelines, playing it out, you know, and what could we have done as a herd that, or what else would have been done back in the day in a herd concept, like meaning like, majority of people are doing the same thing, right? Back to where I started, was the first time we're ever doing the same thing together all over the world. So there'd be a herd concept, a joined forces of like, let's all boost our immune systems. And, and we kind of did that with like masks and isolating. But I think there's probably a little bit more room back in the day for just letting timelines play out. Our society very much wants to control and have safety, even if whether it's real or not, whether it's hurting them in 10 years or not, they want now, so we want that now, you know what I mean? And so, how much are we pushing something that's kind of natural, or like, what could we have done to kind of nip it in the bud more herbally or naturally? So I think you're getting DeAnna opinion in there, because how are you not? It's a personal conversation. Wow. Vaccines are such a personal conversation. And, I haven't hid where I stand. Maybe this goes to the next question. I haven't, I know where I stand. I only do things that give me yeses, and I'm really open to lots of yeses. Like, I'm open to medicine if I needed it, or a vaccine if I needed it, or like, I'm pretty open, because I see these things as all at our disposal. And then what do I feel like I need that's at my disposal? So that's how big I see it. I'm not like plants or forget it. I'm a little bit on a different level. I don't have a yes to these vaccines. I don't have a yes. I can't do something that doesn't give me a yes. I don't do things that don't give me clean yeses in my head and heart, and I just don't have it. So I'm not vaccinated, and I'm very, very honored and thankful for the people who are vaccinated. And I don't think that's a bad thing to do. I think it's really what is going to give you, which one's the yes? Which one's going to give you the safety that you need in this moment? I might change my mind. There might be another one that gives me a yes. They might tweak some of these and, and then I get a yes later, and then I'll do it. I might be forced to say yes because I might want to travel, and that's what I have to do. So, but at this moment, I wait for my yes. And if I get it or not, I feel safe because I'm being authentic with how I feel. I believe safety is authenticity. I'm the safest and the cleanest and the healthiest when I'm staying in my sovereignty, in my authenticity. So that means it becomes super individual and personal, just as we are all unique. Decisions are unique. So I see the same as the person who's like, I have cancer, I'm doing chemo, I'm not doing chemo. It's like, you're the only one who knows what your decision needs to be. It's so personal, and that's a hard decision because people are like, everybody wants them to live, but sometimes they're like, that won't help me live. And they have to make that decision, and that's brave. So I'm thankful for the people vaccinating, and I think it's a no problem, and it's great. But it's just not what I'm doing at this moment personally. Yeah. Did I answer the second question?
Well, what she's wondering in the second question is if someone were to choose to get the vaccine, what is the best for strengthening and bolstering their immune system through that journey before, leading up to it, and then while the body is adjusting?
Okay. I like that. That's great. I'm so glad I asked again. And that's a perfect continued question. So yeah. And I've read a fair amount of pulses now, with vaccinated pulse. So I know that the immune system is definitely on high alert, and it's looking a little autoimmune. And so that's what I've been doing, is I've been really focusing on this, like, let's make sure you don't get an immune deficient or flared situation ahead. Lymph, 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 lymph. How many times? Oh my gosh, I'm telling you, everything lymph. And it's all in our soft tissue. You know what I mean? So it's in the armpit, it's in the knees, it's in the hips. It's in the ankles, it's in the crevices of every joint. It drains right here at the clavicle, and it's a whole system. Lymph river meets the bloodstream, and then it flows to the liver, and it recycles or dumps whatever isn't of use. And then it takes it over to the spleen, which is your immune organ. So the spleen is a very important organ to know about. I wouldn't do a lot of immune boosting right now. Like, don't do too much reishi or mushrooms. I'm about it. I love them. But you don't want to like boom right now, because your system is already like high alert. So you don't really need to, do anything that's going to high alert. You want to keep the flow. Keep the flow. You want to disperse that vaccine in the most perfect, pristine way you could possibly disperse it into every bit of your body, so it does what you chose to do. You know what I mean? You chose it, so you want it to do its best. So I just can't speak enough about salt scrubs, gua sha, dry brushing, laughing, dancing, hiking, sweating. Those are things that move the lymph, they keep your flow. And then please try enough hydration. Please get the try enough hydration, because you can't flow a river that doesn't have any fluid in it. You gotta put water, you gotta be hydrated for flow. So the more dry you were when you got vaccinated, the more flare of fire from the vaccine you could have got. And I've really been seeing this, the people that are like contacting me that are feeling really bad after the vaccine, because I have a handful of those for sure. I really have some people suffering, truth be told, nerve suffering, but they went in so depleted. So it's like, oh, and if you know someone isn't vaccinated yet and they're going to be, please get them the try the hydration. Like 2 weeks of hydration could make a massive difference in the way that, spar on inflammatory response, is going to change how that vaccine is going to work for you, or how it's going to maybe affect you. So I think about like the water in the river, and then I think about the channels in the river, so, and then the lymph speaks in pain, and the lymph speaks in fatigue. And it also speaks when you look in the mirror. So if there's an area you don't like a rash, that's fire in the lymph. Yeah, you can track where your lymph is moving or not. When I look in the mirror, I don't like my abdomen. So guess what? Where is my lymph? Where do I have dams in the river? I don't like it because it's stagnant and it's excess. So, but if I'm really going to be honest, that's my body telling me exactly what needs to change. If you look and you feel frail or bony, or you don't feel like you have any muscle, or, some people don't just feel big. Some people feel really small and frail. That's not juicy. You got to plump up. You got to get juicy. You got to build up your cells. You got to strengthen that, and so this is the lymph. This is how you're going to do basically river restoration, which is what I like to call it. It's like, I'm just doing river restoration. I'm restoring my river so that my bloodstream moves really easy, and my liver and my spleen, which is blood formation, which is everything in the body, by the way, and your spleen, immune organ, can work for you. The lymph river and the bloodstream have to be flowing with water for your liver and your spleen to calm down. And that's where everything speaks flare. All our flares, liver is allergy flare, skin condition flares, headache, pain, spleen is going to be like immune flare, virus, foreign invader, flaring from exhaustion and having to keep going. Yeah. And all of those things get satisfied when the river and the stream is flowing. It's just like nature. We are nature. We really are. We take the same way. So I really just could say so much. And, lymph is throughout the whole birth alchemy class too, because it's important in every question someone could ask me, the lymph is involved. The gut and the lymph are involved. And honestly, emotions, because we eat our emotions. So emotions and the gut and how the gut fed out to the rest of the body is via the lymph and blood.
Yep.
So
It's the
food
whole
has to turn to
system.
liquid. If you want the river and stream to be hydrated, your food has to turn into liquid. And you have to put a little extra liquid in there just to like keep everything composting and breaking down and having enough liquid to continue turning into liquid. So our emotions, our gut, and out to the lymph and blood. That is like the first things that get affected in the body. So no matter what you're trying to heal or prevent, those are involved. And that's why I'm lymph obsessed. That's why I'm all about emotions in the gut, like edible Ayurveda, which starts in September, with Mary Sheila Ganella, like the whole edible Ayurveda course. And by the way, we have a really cool Facebook page. We do like cooking demos if you haven't seen them, about once a month, right, Andrea?
Yeah.
You can see, but that's the reason I do that class. Like, why do I do the classes I do? Why do I keep talking about the lymph? Why am I about food and edibles? This is like the seat of our health. I'm doing my body right now. It's so fun. My body mapping. I'm 2 classes of 7 in, and I'm loving my class, really digging on my class. And it's just really fun to relay those foundations that are like life-changing.
Definitely.
But yeah, please think of your liver and spleen and your lymph in your blood and keep that flow.
Perfect. So we've got a question from Madison. Hey, Madison.
Hi, Madison.
So Everett thinks he broke his rib skateboarding, but it's taking forever for him to get an x-ray. And so she'd like some tips to help with pain.
Wow. Okay.
No.
So one of my favorite essential oils for pain, which most people don't know about, and I do sell it because it's important, Plai. Plai, Plai. It's baby Thai green ginger. And since it's baby ginger and it's green ginger, green is the word for baby, right? Being green.
Yep.
But yeah, it's nothing like, it's no spicy, it's not hot, it's super cooling, very alkaline, but it's specific for muscles and nerves and immune response. So like when I think of all the tissues and I'm trying to like, how do I deal with something that's like broke to the bone? That means the lymph, the blood, the muscle, the skin, the bones, and the nerves are exposed. That's 6 tissues affected when you fracture or sprain or break. 6 of 7 tissues are affected. So Plai, oh my gosh, I could go on and on and on. This stuff is so good. And it's not dehydrating either, which is great for essential oils because a lot of them, you try to use them and they dry you out. So you can use Plai up to 20 drops a day for even up to like 2 weeks. And I'll have someone do it right away with a broken bone, or on a rib that's out, and it is amazing. I've always gone to frankincense. Frankie has been like my tried and true. So if you have frankincense, like get on it, same dosage, but it is drier and it is more expensive. But I've been playing with Plai for the last couple of years with pain. I was actually introduced to it from somebody who had severe, that ripping muscle nerve pain from Lyme's. So I learned it about people who were using it for Lyme's pain. And then I started using it for all kinds of pain. And oh my gosh, I'm like really, really impressed across the board. And I'm noticing a lot of nerve tonification, and it's also good for lymph drainage. Like it's good for edema. It's one of its other characters. And if you had an injury, your immune comes to your rescue and it sends fluid. It's kind of like the fire engine showing up with the fire hose. It's like, neener, neener, you're in trouble. And we're supposed to step aside and rest and let our immune system do its job, but it flushes it with fluid. And that's why we get edema or swelling, because your immune system is putting your fire out. That injury, shows as an alert fire. So the ply is really good at tonifying the lymph back and flushing the fluid out. And just for long-term, and Madison, I think you've heard this from me before, but for everybody, and a good remembering is injuries cannot heal, muscles cannot heal, and nerves cannot heal without getting the inflammation and swelling down first. So if you're sitting with a swollen rib or ankle or whatever's going on, you got to get that fluid moving. We're back to lymph, but you got to get that moving. And as soon as you don't have flooding going on in that tissue, then it can start healing and mending. It's the biggest issue I see with long-term is I'll say, like, did you have edema for a year? Because there's so much scar tissue on someone's ankle, or it's such a long-term issue. And I was like, did you limp on it or did you keep walking? And they're like, I did. I had to go to work. And, who wants to show up in crutches, that type of thing, but, or stay in bed. But it's so important. The muscles take 15 days to heal when the lymph and blood are already moving. So you got to move your lymph and you got to let yourself rest. And that's not what people want to hear. They don't want to hear 15 days off of work. That's scary. But if you think about the longevity of your life, and what I always say is, I'm like, but what if you rested for 5 days and we get this program and we get you on the ply, and we get you resting and we get you moving your lymph in other areas, just not direct on the injury, but you move the lymph everywhere else, What if you feel great and you feel pretty amazing in 5 days, or maybe even just 10 days? And then I'm like, then you don't have to wait 15, because 15 would be like sitting around doing nothing. You could speed it up, but we go back to work in a couple days or limp around, and it's going to be long term. So those are the things, get the edema out of the way so you can actually heal. Get the ply going. I think that's really a great way to go. Well, sorry, I'm going to have to, and think about frankincense if that's what you've got. Okay, here we go. I'm in such an animal land. I really should find another place to do all my classes. Maybe it's nice for everybody. I don't know. Maybe it's annoying. Y'all can tell us the truth. Okay.
All right. Well,
don't forget about Topricin.
Pain. Oh, Topricin.
Don't forget about Topricin. And it's actually a local homeopathic formula, which that's amazing. I guess they were in Forestville. I think the story goes in Forestville when they formulated that. Topricin is an amazing homeopathic ointment, a cream that you can use topically. That stuff rocks. We don't go anywhere without it, I think we've got 4 bottles in our cupboard right now. That's how much stuff is in it. Topricin.
Nice, okay, nice. Well, looks like it's that time. We've had some really great discussion today. Thanks everybody for showing up and giving your wonderful questions. Looks like there's a lot of gratitude in the chat there. Thanks so much for being with us and speaking up. It's a real courageous thing to put yourself out there and get help. So we are grateful for you. And we're grateful for you to be along with us as the journey continues with DeAnna and all of the new things that she's offering. Please think about signing up for the Birther Can Do It webinar. That's next Thursday morning, and it's free. And you'll get to hear from DeAnna and Terry if birth is in your journey as a worker, a supporter, or as someone experiencing it. This is an amazing opportunity. So I hope that you will consider joining in. I put a link in the chat and there'll be links in the description as well. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook. And if you enjoyed today, please subscribe and like this video and turn on notifications so that you can see when DeAnna will be on again. We'll be back in 2 weeks to answer more questions. So please send your questions either through our website. We've got a little form, real easy to submit, or you can send an email to info@deannacenter.com. Well, I hope you have a really amazing Thursday. Any final words for us, DeAnna?
If anybody needs any kind of custom blend of any sort, just keep in mind, there's a whole questionnaire online under my name on the website. Just go under DeAnna. That's where I do my remote consults. And that's where I make custom formulas. You fill out a whole bunch of stuff about yourself and I like make you up a magic potion.
Oh yeah.
And then you got
Good
DeAnna
stuff.
every day, loving you up. Hopefully you want that.
Yeah.
I love you all. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for all the gratitude.
Thanks.
I really appreciate the support in this important time of change. I'm very appreciative. Thank you.